welcome to another awesome day of FMTrain.tv. Have another broadcast studio set up in our Nevada office, and that will be so we can make sure that we always have coverage. We provide daily training. Some of the live streams are going to be more basic or more advanced in nature. Like yesterday was kind of a more basic conversation. Some of you got bored and wandered off, and that's totally cool. I get that. So some broadcasts are more advanced in nature. So today, I guess, if I had to guess, knowing what I know about Kyle, will be both intermediate to advanced. If you're kind of a more basic, newer developer, today might be a little overwhelming for you. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming broadcast schedule. It's kind of important. There's a lot going on. So real quick, as you can see from the screen right here, if you go to FMTrain.tv and you could press the live button right here, the default button, you're going to see that we're going to be doing some charting today. Then Monday is Monkey Day. Monday's Monkey Day, and we're just going to beat our head against the wall talking about licensing, selling your vertical market application, things like that. Tuesday's an interesting day. It's called keeping your FileMaker clients off the rocks, right? So what we're going to be doing is talking about techniques for talking to your customers, getting information out of them, kind of interrogating them. Waterboarding is necessary. You basically have to interview them and all the things that go into that. It's kind of an open-ended conversation. It's a little bit more on the intermediate to advanced side. It's not something you really worry about too much as a beginning developer because you're just trying to make something work. But as you start to build solutions for other people, you get to this thing where, you find out that they don't really know what they want, or they want like the Taj Mahal. There's a lot of things that go into that. So it's a good conversation. So then that leaves Wednesday. Claris actually published this broadcast, which is really interesting. Either they trust us, or they're just not paying attention to what I do, which I think is actually what's happening. So Wednesday is FileMaker 20. We'll be talking about FileMaker 20. Where is it? How do I get it? Why is it not here already? And then Thursday will be a new content, totally new content. It'll be on Linux installation, and it'll be a 2-day conversation because we'll be going through Linux installs. And then the following week will be more information on any allegedly FileMaker 20 stuff. So it's alleged, it's not real. All right, cool. So I'm going to quit sharing my screen. Do you want to switch over to Kyle? Kyle, what are you doing today, and why do we care?
See. So today, this demo is C3 charting. I don't know if you can see my screen.
I can see it. You probably want to move the little box out of the way, or in the corner.
That to the other screen here.
So what are we looking at, and why do we care, and what are you doing? So
charting has always been a challenge with FileMaker. The built-in charting is kind of limited. There's not a whole lot you can do with it, but it's great for display purposes. It's not really interactive. So with this one, it's very interactive. You can hover over things. You can see what all the variables are for that day. You can take stuff away, and you can put it back if you want. You can combine various different charts together. So you can see I have a bar chart at the bottom combined with a line chart at the top. And both of these work together seamlessly. Additionally, I can click on one of these elements, and I can get that in JSON format, and I can use that anywhere in my scripts. If I want to show another layout based on that value, if I want to show this record, then I can have FileMaker pop up a new window, and they can edit that record, or dive deeper into that, see what's going on. So it opens up a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of different kinds of charts that we can do. So obviously there's the bar chart, which everybody knows and loves. There's a stacked bar chart, and I'm just going to go through these real quick here. So there's a line chart. So most people are familiar with that. Then we got a step chart, which I'm not too happy with. It's kind of ugly to me, but then there's the pie chart. So pie chart's pretty cool, and you can take different pieces out.
Can I ask a really dumb question? So
sure.
You've sold us on. You're busy selling us on a car. So we've walked into a car lot. Imagine I'm blindfolded, and I walk, and someone walks me in the middle of a car lot, and you're the car sales guy, and you're showing me this amazing car. Like, what the hell car is this, and where do I get it, and how do I get it? And because you're showing me all this stuff, and I'm totally sold. But like, what is it? Is this like, have you gone into the charting business, Kyle? Are you selling this? Is this a $99 kit? What are you doing?
So this is a free charting library. It's a c3.js. Let me pull this over here. So it's a free library. It's got a bunch of examples in here, different kinds of charts. So you can feel free to dig in here to really get down to it. There's so much you can do with this. You can select any of these. Is
this an organization or is this a company? What C3JS? So JS is javascript.org. Sounds like it's a nonprofit or something. What is this thing?
This is actually a combination of two things. It's the C3 JavaScript library. It's also D3. So it's combining two libraries together into one to be able to create these charts. Let me close that back out. So by being able to integrate this into FileMaker, we can now play around with this. So this is something that native FileMaker charts doesn't really allow you to do, to be able to just take apart and be able to compare different things like that.
This kicks out of the built-in charting in FileMaker.
Exactly.
In fact, I think Claris, they just for sanity purposes would prefer not to build charting and support it, but it's hard for them to kind of remove it at this point. But is this kind of like an add-on, or is this a container? Is this a web viewer? What are we looking at?
It's a web viewer, so it's got all this. This is a JavaScript library. It's all the HTML's right here. I don't know if everybody knows that you can actually inspect the web viewer code. So there's another way to do that, and maybe I'll make a video on how to enable this inspect element. But I think that's another video.
Okay, to be very clear, that's not normally an option I see.
No, it's not a normal option. Usually you right click, you just get reload, and you're like, okay, well, that doesn't help me as a developer. So there is a code you enter into, I think it was the terminal, and then it enables this inspect element. It'll pop up.
Okay.
So
does this work on Windows, or should we even?
It does work on Windows.
It does.
Yeah.
Have you tried this on FileMaker 20?
there is no FileMaker 20 yet. But
okay, but if there was, have you tested it on there, and what did it work?
So yeah, the next version of FileMaker, we're gonna be redoing the web viewer code. It's no longer gonna be Internet Explorer based. I assume it's gonna work even better once we get rid of Internet Explorer.
Okay, so you're just assuming it works better. Okay, so everyone just warning that we'll have to rediscuss this next week, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out more later. But yeah, you can see that we can have percentage show up. We can change that to dollars here if you want the dollars to show up. It can be with or without the commas. And then this expand on hover, I can disable that. So that way it no longer expands on hover, but I kind of like that. So yeah, I've been trying to pull apart all the code and be able to enable everything that's available in their library. So we can also...
So Agent Chevy has a comment. He says, I'm already blown away. I'm hoping the implementation will be bona fide, as in not sketchy, made up bullshit. Is that what you're meaning, Agent Chevy? I'm trying to figure out what bona fide is, right? Like, as in implying that this is all fake mirrors and
No, this is real FileMaker data, and it's really in FileMaker. So for an example, I'll go back to bar chart here, and I'll just go over to one of these, and we'll put a negative sign in front of it. You can see it. Real-time data, and there you can see Apple's -278. So this is all real-time. This is the real FileMaker data. These are FileMaker portals, so you can edit everything in the portal here. I can also change the color here. So we have several different colors. So you can use a color name. You can use a hex value. You can use RGB. You could even, let's change this to RGBA, and then we'll give it a transparency value of 0.8, or maybe I'll go 0.6 to make it a little more obvious. So now you can see that this is now transparent. So if I go, if I show the grid, and let's see. Okay, so if I go to bar, enable zoom, So there's so much here that you can look at, but you can see the lines go right through. You can see the transparency. So that's what RGBA is versus RGB. So if I change this back to RGB, get rid of the transparency value, and now it's no longer transparent. So really cool. Yeah, I just showed you a couple different things. You can put a grid there if you like a grid. This is completely customizable. If I didn't want the grid, and then make this stand out a little bit more when I start putting different labels on here. So you can have like the average value, one line that's the average value of all the values. So you can compare all the values against the average of all of them. So you can script that.
All right, we have a question. Here's a question. You're like a sales guy that talks really fast and never stops, right? So, so the Marines want to know how the hell they plug this in to their, stuff. I mean, like, how do I take this and make use of it, right? I mean, you're showing me a fancy car. How do I buy it and drive it?
Okay. So if I go into like this, see, let's just reset demo. So I have a script called LowChart, and then I have a variable. Just this is my sample because I was just kind of building a demo here, but I'm just show you what this looks like here. Watch. Okay, so that's kind of a lot to look at. But basically, it's building all this code. This is going to go directly into the chart engine, and it's going to parse all this out. This is all the data at the top. So that's a chart data, which is kind of why it looks ugly. It's a JSON object within the JSON. So it kind of groups it all together with all the escapes and everything. But yeah, you can see all the different elements in here. So that's what's going on. Also, if I go over here to manage custom functions, we'll see there's my custom function.
All right, you got someone owes me $100. So
it's I use SQL here, so we're using execute SQL to get our data from both the portals. So we got 2 portals, so therefore we got 2 SQL statements, and then we have all of our options down here. So this is where it's all coded in, and so I've integrated this into the UI, so you can see this is the example table, and then the field. So it's using all this live data from this layout.
Real quick, Kyle, this is really, really cool. Like, undoubtedly, this is really cool. But I don't understand what you just did. I'm sorry. I'm really kind of like beginner-ish. But so what? Did you add a custom function to the database that you made for this specifically?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was showing you. So I have manage custom functions. There's a bunch of custom functions in here. So the chart is powered by the JSON that's produced from this function here. So it also uses a couple other custom functions here. Okay. And I also have this function here, which is super useful for any web viewer that you create.
Oh, is that how you were zooming in earlier?
So let me show what that does here. So this is scale web viewer. What that's going to do is I can put a number over here. So I had to do this for Windows because Windows, everything was a little bit smaller and it just didn't look the same. So I had to put in a scale value here. So this uses that custom function to scale the web viewer. So I can go really big, which just looks horrible, or I can go really small. Or I have some other controls in case you just have a little tiny area where you want your web viewer, but you want to shrink it down really small or something. Maybe you're adding other elements to your HTML. So
that's definitely like super cool. If I wanted to add this to like my database, how would I do that? Would I like take all your custom functions and add them to mine? Or would I how would I go about if I dropped down FileMaker starting point, I said, okay, Kyle's charting demo is the coolest crap. What do I do?
Okay, so yeah, this, as I said, this is where it gets all its data right here. These 2 SQL. So these 2 formulas here, we're getting data from this is where our data is. Data, obviously. Fruits, this is where we're getting our color for our chart, our label for the chart type that we want. So if it's line or bar or pie or whatever, if we want individual charts within our chart, different types, we would change that.
Got it.
So this is where this is basically our settings. So that drives our settings table, and this is our data table.
Okay.
So that's just pulling the data. It's creating JSON element out of that SQL call.
I have a question. So there's people here wanting to know step by step how to implement this, and you're literally waterboarding them to death here, right? With the fire hose, right? So which is fine. It's kind of what I expected would happen. Let me just talk out loud, Kyle. You can agree or disagree with this. So Kyle's going too fast to train people on how to do this step 1, step 2, step 3, right? He's just like going. So if I had the sample file and it was unlocked, which this is, my inclination might be to add this to my solution as a second file in the solution, at least initially, to leave the chart in there as functioning here as a separate, you can't really see me, I'm waving my hands here, but use this file here as an add-on file to your solution. So you might have FM starting point as a file and then this charting next to it. And then maybe work on loading data into the charting file, at least initially, to kind of get your head wrapped. What you do is you keep changing one thing at a time until you break it, then you back up and fix it, right? If you try to implement and move the charts in the starting point and you're not a very experienced developer, when I say not very experienced, that's really misleading. You're not like a certified Kyle level developer. Nick, Kyle, Calvin, some of you TK, maybe Moki, I don't know. I really don't know all your skill sets out there. But Larry's more intermediate. Megan's kind of more intermediate. So the question is, I would keep it working. I would put my data, find out a way of getting the data, I guess I could draw in here, coming out of starting point, getting the data in here, and then having it rechart over here to the point where it's useful. Once it's useful, then we decide if we want to leave it as a separate file or you want to try to transplant it. But initially is just to cut your teeth with it. And then, and once you have a chart that works, you can always leave it in here. Well, there's other techniques for grabbing a web viewer and turning it into a container and moving it, right? So you could actually bring it over here, render this, and then if you wanted a still of it, or I guess conceptually you could pop, this is one file, but you could make a card style window or something in the solution and have it just pop the chart. So there's a couple different ways of attacking it. The goal, though, is since we didn't build it and Kyle's marginally brilliant, then we have to follow in footsteps. And if you move it, it's all broke and you're not really sure what it's going to take to get it fixed. I would go the other way, load data in, get comfortable with it. And then when you break something one step at a time, then you unwind that step, undo it, and then fix it. Does that make sense? Moki's got a thought. And then Alexei is there from Belarus. Oh wow. Okay, cool. Belarus. Is that I think there's a team there in Belarus, a FileMaker team there in Belarus, right? So yeah, if you have questions about this, let us know. Now's the time to ask questions. I would suggest everyone learn execute SQL. Yeah, well, that's the difference between low code and pro code, right? So there's that magical line. Like I only learn pro code if I have to, right? There are a handful of questions on the certification test that are execute SQL, and they test you on what the SQL statement is. I never learned it, therefore I can't get that right. So I never get 100% on the test. I get 85% on the test. So you don't have to know it to get certified, but if you did know it, it is useful. So Moki's got a good point. But yeah, and I know Nick hates it. I'm busy. I don't hate it. I'm just busy. But I always like learning new things. I'm learning other new things. So, but yeah, I agree with what Moki says. It's useful to learn it. If you don't want to learn it, you're too old to learn it, you don't want to learn it, you're busy, then just try to recycle what someone else has already done, would be my suggestion.
Yeah, SQL is really powerful. I have some custom functions in here that will convert that SQL response into JSON. So that's what this is doing here. It's executing SQL, and then it's converting it into JSON with some custom functions. So it is really powerful. It's really fast. However, you do need to keep in mind the complexity of your formula here, because if you make it too complex, then it's going to bog things down. So keep it simple. Only reference static values. Stay away from unsorted calculations or summaries in these calls, because that'll just kill it.
Yeah.
So some things to keep in mind when learning SQL.
We had I repeat the story periodically. We had a senior engineer when this came out goes, "Oh, you got to use SQL and starting points." I said, "Fine, you build it in there." He builds it in there and walks off. One of my senior engineers. I like him. He still works for me. And the problem was is that we started having found sets of like 40,000 records. And when you shot SQL against 40,000 records on a network, it started to choke. And so then we had to support it, and only he wanted to support it. So it's one of those moments where I agreed to someone's, the hostage negotiator. I agreed to his demands, and then later had to remove it. Right.
So yeah, that's the other caveat with SQL is you don't want to get too many results because it'll just create this variable that's 10 megabytes of data in one variable, and that's insanely impossible to parse all that data out. It's just going to bog down your calculation engine trying to look at all that data, trying to store it all in RAM, and trying to get all that data extracted out of it into whatever you're trying to do. So you always want to minimize your number of results.
So Alpha Lima 92651, did you just show up? Because we were just addressing this issue. A number of people have asked for step-by-step instructions on how to implement into existing app. We're discussing strategies for that. And because there is no step-by-step instructions on this, right? So it does not exist. So this is, Kyle built this and assuming that you're all brilliant, you can follow in his footsteps because you're all brilliant too. Kyle's wrong, but there's only so many hours in the day that Kyle has. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you on that. I would love the steps myself. Like I said, my suggestion is to leave the file here, rename it, but work within the file, move the data into the file from your file, at least initially, and then get the chart to where it's useful. Then decide if you want to try to cut it out and remove it. You have to move the custom functions, and then you got to move the fields first, then the custom function. I don't know what the order would be. Then you'd move the layout, objects, and then I guess the scripts or something like that. So
yeah, I'll have to come up with some instructions and post it on Discord for everyone as far as the order of operation here for.
Well, if you come up with that, let us know because it would be a useful conversation to go through the implementation of it, right? So I think it's just, it's a lot for. I mean, I would if I was going to do this, I would clear my schedule for the day, turn off my phone, turn off all my distractions, and then slowly move this stuff across. So yeah, that would be.
So I haven't really gotten into the settings here. So if I want, this all has white space in between each of the sections. Everything here is completely customizable. So here I just increase this. The closer you get to 1, the closer this comes together. So I think if I go to 1 is pretty close. So I've been just going with 0.75, which I think looks pretty good. So that's all customizable. So zooming. So if I do this to zoom into it, that's enabled here. So if I turn that off, I can't do that anymore. So the crosshairs go away. So if I enable zoom, then I get the little crosshair, and that allows me to select and zoom in. So pretty cool. See. Stack bar, that's kind of the same thing. So if I go into line, we have also enable zoom here, which we can turn on and off. So here you can see it shows you everything for that column. If you didn't want to see everything, you can turn off the group points, and then you just get the one item. If you don't want to see tooltips at all, then you can do that, and then none of the tooltips show up. So I was really trying to expose every little part of this library to make it real easy. So I showed that stuff. Let's see, tooltip. So this is where it gets really technical. So if you want to adjust the tooltips, what this shows you when you do that. Agent Chevy was just messaging me.
Oh, really good.
Maybe you can add some tooltips on the settings to help users understand what each setting does. Yeah, I could certainly do that. We'll save that for next time. So this, I put in a bunch of sample data here so you can kind of play around. So the tooltip titles, there it says data undefined, but you can change it to return different things. That just got rid of the heading altogether.
Could you add a new one live for us out of curiosity, or would that be like really complicated? Just so we can see how you do it.
Okay, so see, we have data undefined. I think that's the one I want. Yeah, so it says data. So right here it says return data. So this I can change to, let's say, fruit. And now it says fruit.
Okay,
instead.
got it.
So tooltip name. So ratio would be percentage. So they're showing me the percentage.
Okay.
If I want the ID of it. So ID is, it's that lowercase here. So if I'm looking at this column here, I have apples, peaches, pears, bananas, grapes. That's my ID column. So when I'm hovering over this, you now see the lowercase grape, lowercase banana.
Got it. So you can have that be different from the actual label.
Yeah, so name is the label. If I wanted to change the label, if I just want pear, and so then pear becomes just pear. If I want I want it to be pineapple.
Got it. Okay,
Pear
cool.
shows pineapple. So
that's really cool that you can like alter the information like right here in like the tooltip.
Yeah.
But how did you get that to work?
Well, as I said, this is two different tables. So this is my settings table. It handles all of my IDs, all the labels, the colors, and the various different types of charts. I wonder what'll happen. Okay, so it'll on it. But yeah, if I'm doing a stack bar chart and I want this element to be a line and I want this one to be a spline chart. So a spline is a little bit wavy, where line chart is jagged lines. So that's the difference between line and spline.
And then you can go mess with the tooltips to change.
Yeah, so then we can go over here to the tooltip. We can change what this says and what it does.
This is also actually very cool. Yeah, this is very, very cool.
No, this is very cool.
I like this a lot. I'm like thinking like, shit, how do you train people to build this?
Yeah.
But,
the tooltips took me a while.
Oki had a suggestion about sending us kind of like a training file, like with training wheels, right? For those of you who know what a bicycle, if you're learning to ride a bicycle and either you learn on a real bike or you have training wheels when you're 6 years old. I don't know what they do in Europe. They probably just throw their kids on the Autobahn and say go for it. But in the United States, they put training wheels on and you kind of motor around.
We do have a quick question about the scatter chart specifically from Twitch.
The scatter chart.
AI92651. How does a scatter chart work in the demo? I assume you mean can't. I can't seem to make it work. Can you connect lines between data points?
Well, that's where you use a line chart. So scatter is a line chart without the lines. So it's just showing you all the points without all the lines. So that's really the only difference. So scatter chart, you're seeing all the dots here, but it's connected with the lines.
Yeah, so, I mean, the reason they do, I mean, for those of you who are engineering or science backgrounds, I mean, the pure data is the dots. The lines are theoretically assuming that things are linear in between there. And then they use polynomials, which is a fancy way of saying equations in math and fancy to try to draw the curve to extrapolate. Like it's hard to zoom in, but if you zoom in right here, there's a dot there and a dot there. And we're assuming that there's an arc that covers over that. See that arc? A dot there, a dot there. And it's the computer's guessing that the real data in real life arcs up and then comes back down. That's done by mathematical formula. So that's what we can adjust this. But strictly speaking, at the end of the day, all we really have are the dots. And then everything else, I think the line is a little bit rough, but, and we know that probably it's a pretty fair approximation, but you start doing like, polynomials to describe how this data really is. And it's kind of an approximation. It's kind of like calculus when you start integrating formulas to get areas and volumes and things like that. There's a degree of, it's pretty accurate, but it's not exact, right? So if you wanted exact, you'd actually have data for each point. You'd have real data for each point. And then it would be very obvious what it is, right? But if you go back to the line chart, go back to just the scatter, go back to scatter, right? Go back to scatter. And can you show one series on the scatter? How do you show one series on the scatter? To show, just show me like all the apples, for example, right?
So.
Okay, there we go. Just pick one. There we go. Now, So that is the raw data. Okay. So the question is what do you do with this, right? So strictly speaking, that is all that you can legally really like. This is what we know factually. It's not debatable. It's not a political opinion. It's like physics. It's real. And so then you go, well, I could put a line between them, right? And then you're pretty sure that there's probably is a line. If you click the line now on that, it's going to go ding, 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 right?
Yeah.
If you go back just to Apple, go back just to the.
So this brings up another thing that we can do. If I can remember where it was. Let's see. Subchart. Okay. Trying to remember what I was. So you can have it hide some of these.
Right.
Line or spline.
Yeah. Well, the point is that there's there's empirical real data. Then there's the data. Then there's the area in between where you don't have data and you kind of have to guess as to what's there. And you know that it got from one point to the next. So a linear line is kind of mostly a safe bet, but it's not necessarily a best fit. So
I was trying to show that you can have it just hide a couple of them, but for some reason it doesn't hide it up here. So I'm not sure why that is. Anyhow.
You probably have an error in your JSON and SQL and custom function, in which case none of us can fix it for you.
Well, this is just adjusting the value in their script. So I need to combine that with the FileMaker script when you change this, that it eliminates some of the data items. So that's all I need to do there.
Okay.
So for some reason, their JavaScript doesn't do that automatically, but we can do that in FileMaker.
Yeah, restricted FileMaker.
So, so here's some other cool things that I wanted to show. So with this spline chart, you have a bunch of different options here. This we can do some really weird charts here. If I do area spline, for example, and then, so you can get really creative and do some weird things.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm like, what the? So I've been just kind of playing around with this, trying to figure out what's going on. So there's some really funky things. But yeah, with the spline, there's a bunch of different settings with the interpolation that you can customize. So you can do a step chart with this, or
yeah, step chart is about as useless as it is, because I would assume that everything's very linear. And of course, if it's a digital system, then this would make perfect sense. But most things in life are not digital. In fact, very few things in life are actually digital. It's all, the world is analog. Agent Chevy says, I worked with Salesforce reports and dashboards. I think this is purely a competitor. Kind of seem that way.
Yeah, there's so much you can do here that I'm just barely scratching the surface of this. You can actually, if you dig into their documentation, you can do a whole nother Y column over here that's Y2, and then you can have different lines. So you can have, like, this whole left side could be all line charts, and the other side could be spline charts or something a little different to differentiate the two sides. But then you can have two charts and compare them in the same chart. So that's kind of cool. So that's where we get into the X and the Y, and then the Y2.
I was going to say, if you had to turn on a Y2 for me. Do you have a Y2?
I don't have a Y2 yet. That'll be, as you can see, this is a lot to program. So I just haven't gotten to the Y2 part yet.
So what happens is that you can have a chart that where, like, one of the colors is go over here and it corresponds, that number's on this side. And then you can have another Y over here with a different scale. Right. And you have a blue or a green or another one that corresponds to that. And so that might be useful in terms of, analytics, trying to see a trend or something like that. Right. So
yeah,
super useful.
You can also rotate the chart. So that's kind of cool.
Of course, someone's not going to say, hey, we have a progress bar. Right. There you go.
Right. Well, it gets a little interesting when you do the different types.
So Scott Kane can confirm. He says it works on Windows PC. So I'm guessing that means it works on Windows 10 on FileMaker 19.2 would be my guess, is what he says there.
Yeah, I did test on Windows. The scale is a little off on Windows, so that's why I put the scale chart in here, and also customizable height and width if the scale doesn't work for you. So you can hard code the height and width in there.
Ruben has a question. Mark, you want to grab that question?
Yes. Ruben asks, is it possible to combine more graphs on one page, so build a dashboard? So, and can it then filter multiple graphs with only one filter?
Absolutely. So you can see this is just web viewer. So I can copy and paste this, and I can have two charts, one above and one below. And then I just need to name them. So you can see that it's got web C3 charting. So I just need to make sure that they have their unique names. And when you run the script, if I go into here and then load chart, so at the very bottom, right now it's hard coded the name, but you can change that to a variable and you can add that to your JSON script that's calling this. It could be a JSON parameter that has the web viewer name, and then it can automatically redirect to whatever web viewer you have that you're wanting to load with that code.
I'm clapping for you. I'm clapping. I'm clapping. Good one. Yep. Most everyone here should have followed that. That's pretty straightforward. So naming objects and having a script target the named object.
Yeah. So right now I just have it hard coded. But yeah, I can certainly add that as a part of my JSON variable that I'm loading into the chart, and then the script can tell what web viewer to load with that data. Yeah. So you can also hide the different axes, which is kind of cool. If I go into let's say subchart. So sometimes you see these charts with a subchart down below, and maybe you want to use this for your zoom.
Oh, I like that.
So that's useful. You can adjust the height of the subchart. So if I change that to 10, then it's really small, and that'll allow me to see the highs and lows a little better when it's small. So subchart. There we go. So just turn that off.
I wasn't aroused until you did that. Now I'm aroused. Good stuff.
Yeah, when you really start digging into this, there's so many possibilities. So if I want the legend to be on the right, I can do that.
Yeah.
If I want it to be inside of the chart, I can do that. And then there's some offsets, so the positioning of it. So if I want to change it to offset 100, it's going to bring it down and put it wherever I want. Or I can just jump it to whichever corner. So bottom left. So yeah, you can position this anywhere you want, and then you can use the offsets to position it. Maybe if you want it right up in the corner where the lines won't be in the way, that's possible as well.
So Alpha Lima 92651 says, "Hey, how did you go back to combination bar and line? What's how you turn it on?"
Yeah, so here I'm on line. So by changing this is the main chart type. So this will change all of these sub chart types. So when I change this to bar, all of these become bar. When I change it to line, all of these become line.
And how do you mix them? Yeah.
So that's where I can change any of these. So I can say bar. This is where it gets really funny because I was testing with this, and you can actually do a pie inside of your chart.
Okay, now we've reached the realm of stupid. Right? And we got that was step 1. This is step 2 over here. So you come down here and you monkey with it, right? So there you go.
Yep. Yeah, so you can configure the chart to be exactly how you want with all the colors you want here, and then you can copy that into your system when you're into your current program to integrate it. So you can do all your customizations here, make sure everything looks the way you want, and then you can use that JSON that it's populating into your app. So really cool. So yeah, like this, the heading over here where it says quantity sold. So I was kind of showing this earlier. Is you can change this. So I expose the CSS element here. So there, if I want the font to be smaller, I can make it smaller. If I want it really big, I can make it really big. So there's a petite caps. What that does is all of these are capital letters. There's no lowercase there. So if I comment that out, now it's got capitalized and lowercase. So it's
so I got a question. Why were you doing this for your business there where you work? You're doing charting for them?
I've always wanted a really cool charting feature. It's for myself and for the company. So this is something I did on my own in my own free time. So nobody paid me for any of this. This is just me playing around on the weekend. So Let that out. You can also change the font style too. So.
So Moki saying the built-in sample chart on the add-ons in FileMaker 19 uses the same concept Kyle's showing here. It's a good place as a beginner to learn stuff. You can learn how to feed your data into the web viewer and how JavaScript takes your data and translates to HTML. Yeah. So.
Yeah, if you know CSS, you can edit these here. This is your x-axis and the y-axis. So X is down here. So I can make all those bold.
Martin is asking, it's free to use. Well, we gave you the sample file, but he's asking about the license on the chart. What is the license?
It's free. So if I go back
a little bit free or really, really free, right? Like how free is it, right? So, right. So, like some people say if you use it personally, it's free, but what if you use it for your business?
There is no way that I've seen to pay for this product. So I've been all through all of this data, all of this site, and I cannot find anywhere to purchase anything. There's a forum for discussions. I don't know if anybody's asked about licensing in here, but and then the source code. So it's all downloadable.
Yeah, well, if the source code's on GitHub, then it's pretty much wide open, right? So
yeah. It's basically a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get kind of thing. So there is MIT.
Wow.
But yeah, there's no links or anything in here as far as paying for it. So yeah,
did we get
a lot of websites use this.
I've handled most of them. There's a new one here. How would you zoom to a FM data from a chart data point? Oh, that's cute. He's talking about.
I mean, when you click on it and you can see that, and then you can have that open up a new user form or a new layout, and then
so that's a URL protocol that you fired back, or actually, that's how you used to do it. Now you do it with the JavaScript.
Yeah. So
activate script function in 19.1 or whatever.
Where is that JS function? So yeah, the old method was like this.
Yep.
Where you had the FMP URL that you had to do with your file name, with your script, and then there's your parameter,
and then
you had to do this in order for it to actually trigger anything. So here's the new version, which is much simpler. It's one call. You can perform it with an option, or there's another one that's just FileMaker.perform script. So this performs the script with this name. So it's just some placeholder text here, which is substituted out later. And then we have our parameter here. And 5 is just your standard. So perform script, FileMaker perform script uses 5, but it can't use anything else. So having with option allows you to pause the current script or halt the current scripts. It gives you more flexibility.
Yeah.
What you can do with that.
Yep. That's kind of what he did. That's what we're doing, Alpha Lima 9251. So what we have is, can you go back over the chart for me? So what I'm going to walk verbally through what's happening. So we take all this data and we shoot it into the web viewer. And some of the data what we shoot in there is that if the user on the web viewer clicks on a certain spot, then it's going to perform a script. That's what we were just showing. So it's going to perform a script, and that script will then come back over to FileMaker and beep or do whatever we want it to do. You can have it show whatever, right? Yeah, so do that, show that. So right now there's no script. He clicks right there, it fired the script right here. So it's two-way interaction back and forth. That's how that's done. So it's already built in there. All you have to do is decide what you want the script to do on the receiving side. So because remember, this is operating independently of this over here. I mean, the FileMaker is all this area here, right? And then this is basically the operating system in a web viewer or browser, right? And the two really don't know about each other. They don't talk to each other really. And so this little gateway, we shot videos on this. This is our live streams. We've done this, I don't know, probably first part of the year or something. We go back and find the videos, or it's in our training. We talk about how to initiate, because obviously shooting this into here is one-way communication, but then you can click here and it fires back this way, right? In fact, it was Calvin. We did it with Calvin. Mark, we'd have to find that video, but we've done all this in the live stream. But yeah, that's how you do it. So pretty cool.
Thanks, Ruben.
Well, he's a pro coder, right? Which I want to be careful what pro means. It means that you're doing JavaScript, SQL, PHP, raw CSS, or something like that. It's a whole level above low code. Low code is writing scripts in FileMaker, and that's all you do. Okay. In fact, in my preferred world, that's where I would love to stay all the time. But bringing you all the latest, greatest stuff, I have to stretch myself. So. Or I have the people who present stretch themselves.
Personally, I prefer the coding because then you can do so much more. Low code is so limited. Yeah.
Once you got to decide if that's part of your job description and what you want to do. But once again, that's a natural, like Megan, that's your natural progression. I don't know if Megan's still here. She's drinking or moving or unpacking boxes. But yeah, it's a natural progression as you really people might expose it a little bit in the future with no code, but really they get exposed with low code. They build some basic stuff and then they go, wow, I can do a lot. And then eventually they go up and they say, well, it'd be really great if I could talk to Oracle and ODBC and do this other stuff. Suddenly you start doing pro level coding. So what do you think, Megan? You're going to eventually learn some pro code down the road? Jake is teaching me JSON. I am almost a year in. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, JSON is a 4-out format. If you're doing that, you got 1 foot in the pro code world.
So I have some other files that I kind of wanted to play around with. If you are interested in seeing some other demos real quick.
Well, you've got about 5 minutes of what you've got.
Oh, so, perfect.
So, but you're going to come back other days, right? So,
right. Yeah, this is kind of a preview of something I've been working on. This could tie in with tomorrow with selling stuff online or something. Putting in an Apple store. So let's see if I load this. So I put in a little timer here. This is a Minesweeper game. So one of the challenging things about Minesweeper is if I can find an empty spot. So you can see how it cleared out all of the fields that are empty and then one outside of all of those. That is really hard to do in FileMaker. So if you've never done a Minesweeper game, I kind of recommend it. So that's something right there that was really hard to do.
Well, I remember that someone built a Pac-Man game in FileMaker when the script triggers came out, right? So it was that, or it was a race car game. They were going around in circles as a race car, right? And pretty wild stuff. But yeah, and then that was NJ. NJ did a lot of animations using slide controls and stuff, and flipping like a flip book with animations like little stick figures. NJ from Australia, who's been to with COVID kind of winding down, the event planning business is back to business. So has less time for FileMaker now. He's back to his day job. So whoa.
So that's something else I wanted to make a video of. So you can.
That animation is really cool.
Yes, I was trying really hard to find some animated dice, and I found was it on CodePen? Somebody had an animated dice, and so I was playing around with that, and I put it in the web viewer, and then I was trying to play around with selecting the dice and unselecting, and trying to work it into a game. So here it says, but then I can select one, and I can roll again, and then it just kind of keeps all your score.
Well, I mean, if you want to schedule, I mean, I don't know, what are the next two? So we need to wrap this up, but what are the next 2 events that you're going to do with us? What are they? Are they? Margaret, have you worked out what he's doing? When?
We've discussed a couple options that we should really figure out, because I'm also trying to loop in some other people.
Yeah, I think one of the things we want to do is explore these demos here. These are all different text editor integrations into FileMaker, and then kind of compare them all and see, get everybody's opinion, what works best, what looks best.
In terms of text editor, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, they're all different text editors. So the Quill demo I did, obviously FileMaker does.
You're overselling it. Quit selling. We're not selling that car today. That car is not for sale. So that's one day. What's another day? Give me another day.
So another day, let's see. I have so many things.
Well, you don't. I mean, we can do more. You don't have to just do 2 more. We can do more, right? I'm just trying to figure out because you might have like a stupid game day, Minesweeper, along with Yahtzee and stuff.
Yeah,
you could do one day with
deeper
games.
into that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the next one I wanted to compare the text editors and what's available, and then
all right.
So you have. I don't know if everybody's seen this. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I've just been playing around with a lot of different web viewer things.
Okay.
And there's toggle switch demo. Which is cool.
Yeah. Yep. You know what I need is Mrs. Pac-Man. I need Mrs. Pac-Man on a web viewer and then I will bury it and hide it in starting point as an Easter.
There we go.
That would be awesome. So I need to find if you see a legal Mrs. Pac-Man, let me know and I will thread that in there. So yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to get Kyle scheduled up for some more stuff. Next week is where we start talking about FileMaker 20, which is exciting. And that'll be good. And then also performance and things like that. A lot coming up. Next week's going to be kind of big kickoff, kind of a busy couple weeks. And then, but we're still threading Kyle into the conversation. We're going to thread in Hansa, probably Charles Schmidt as well from Monkey Bread. He'll come back. He's always, that's the point with these folks is that they're always showing you something you haven't done before. And then you don't have to use it immediately. Just put it back in your little brain and then recycle it in the future when that moment comes. So, yeah. All right. Cool.
Monkey was saying that we should create an add-on for this chart. That would be awesome. We can add that to the Wolfpack. So.
Yeah, well, if you have another spare week with nothing to do, then yeah, you can build it.
Yeah, it does take time. It's not going to do itself. So we'll work on it.
It's not going to do itself. Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, I'm going to let everyone go. Margaret, anything else?
Nope, I think we're good. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. We are done here.
Kyle, you good?
Yep, we're good.
All right, that's it. See everyone next week. Monday with Moki. Monday with Moki.
There we go. All right, have a great weekend.
See ya.
Just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.